Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news on what has been yet another fascinating day in Manchester United's season. Erik ten Hag banning with the club 4 journalists, I think it was 4, from his press conference in light of those stories that came out last night and this morning, basically saying that he's losing control of the club and the dressing room unrest. It's funny, isn't it? Because I mentioned this on the morning show this morning, funnily enough. I said these journalists should be banned from the press conference. At the end of the day, they're going to sit there in front of a manager they're stabbing in the back and ask a question that's not going to be the one that they've written about. So look, statements have come out from the Manchester Evening News. We'll read those. Was Ten Hag and the club right to do it? They're certainly going to get the backup of people. But then again, I think, look, my opinion is that, I understand that journalism is meant to be impartial. I get that. But we also live in a world now where journalism's not a dictatorship. When I was growing up doing a paper round when I was 14, you'd read the paper by a journalist and they were like a dictator because you read it and there was no right to reply. There's now social media. And when a journalist writes about dressing room sources and pisses people off because it's undermining the club and the manager, then those journalists are going to get criticised, aren't they? Simple as that. We'll also be talking about what Ten Hag said ahead of a massive game against Chelsea. He says he retains the players' support as well. Loads to get into on the show tonight. And before we do that, though, got a bit of trivia for you. We're sponsored, of course, by Boohoo Man. I'm wearing the new hoodie I got last week. Absolutely love it. You can get all sorts of clothing from Boohoo Man, whether it's gym wear, relax wear, hoodies, clothes. Yeah, they're all clothes, coats, etc. And also, the United Stand audience can get, let me read this out, with those winter nights just around the corner, Boohoo Man is giving you an extra generous 10% on top of whatever is already being offered on the Boohoo Man website. So when you use the code Goldbridge at checkout, you get an extra 10% off on top of their site-wide 40% discount. So basically a 50% discount with the code Goldbridge. So if you fancy getting something nice and stylish, get onto the link in the description or you can scan the QR code next to me. But as you're always aware with Boohoo Man, with a bit of trivia, today is no different. So let's dive in and see if you can name the player. Who am I? I was born on the 27th of May, 1971. I know who it is. My career started at Torquay United, but I was only there for 1 year before we were being sold to Manchester United for a Torquay record fee of 200k. I made my debut for United at 17 at a 2-0 win over West Ham. During my time at United, I played 193 games and scored 21 goals. My achievements at United include winning 3 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 1 League Cup and a partridge in a pear tree, or more fittingly, a European Cup Winners' Cup. I left United on the 10th of August 1995 to join Leeds United for a fee of 4.5 million. And as a young teenager at secondary school, Goldbridge used to replicate his famous goal celebration jig. Of course, it is Lee Sharp. Well done to everyone who got that. I actually liked Lee Sharp more than Ryan Giggs when Sharpie was at the club. I absolutely loved Lee Sharp. Fantastic player. But yeah, don't forget to check out Boohoo Man. Links in the description. Scan the QR code with the code Goldbridge. Get up to 50% off with that extra 10%. Christmas is coming and you can certainly get a lot of stocking fillers and items from Boohoo Man. So check it out. Fantastic. Right, let's get into this show. Where to start? Well, I know where to start. We're going to start off with the day as it was. Straight after the morning show, we heard that Manchester United were going to ban, I think it was David McDonnell from The Mirror, Sky, Cave, Rob Dawson of ESPN and Samuel Luckhurst. And Manchester United's grounds for doing this was that they didn't approach the club to get clarity on the stories they were writing. So therefore, they were banned from the press conference. Was that the right thing to do from Manchester United? Let's get a bit of a poll going there because I'm interested. Because some people will say, what about free speech? And a lot of journalists will be getting very nervous today and a lot of news outlets will be getting very nervous today. But my opinion is they were right. And everyone's going to shout hypocrites. Because, Goldbridge, you do videos about United every single day. I'm not a journalist, as they're more than happy to keep slagging us off about. They don't like me. They don't like what we do. They don't like fan media. They've been to college and uni for years to learn how to write about football, whereas I actually played the game and watched it from 5 years of age and learnt it myself. So they don't like what we do. So I've got absolutely no horse in the ring here. I back Manchester United on this. Ban them all. I think that the way that I think a lot of their questions in press conferences are crap most of the time, and I think they're a dying media. I really do. I think that when you look at the subscription numbers, because a lot of them have subscriptions now, you look at their readership numbers. The United stand pisses all over them. To be blunt, you know, we're talking about tens of millions of interactions a month. They dream of that sort of interaction. They're the old media. That's what they are. And I'm not being arrogant here. I'm talking about you, the community. I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about Twitter. I'm talking about, you know, hashtag MUFC or whatever else, or forums or Discords or anything like that. This is the real conversation now, and that's just the way it is. And I think that this is a strong message from the club, that the old media way of getting sources and then slagging off the manager or the club, it's all fine and well, but you won't, you know, you've got no divine right to come into a press. I'm not allowed to go into the press conference. I'm quite comfortable with that. I'm not allowed to go into the press conference. I know we do go to some games, but we're not allowed to go to all of the games, and I don't even think I'm allowed to go anyway. So I'm quite comfortable with that. I'm not bothered, because I will ask a question that the club won't like. But that's fine. I'm not bothered about that. That's never been on my agenda, and I don't want to do it, and I don't think you lot want us to do it anyway. I'll tell you what we have got, though. Tomorrow morning, we've got an interview with Anthony that's going out across our Twitter page, where he's answered a load of questions for us, and I guarantee you the numbers will be massive. I don't care. I really don't care. You know, we do what we do, and no one ever wanted to talk to us. And now some people do want to talk to us because they appreciate the enormity of what we do. And the enormity of what we do gets a message out to an enormous amount of people. So, you know, I think it's a very clever thing for the club or players to reach out and do stuff with us, but not that they do. But I think, look, there was a statement that came out. Well, look, let's sort of just go through this, because I think Ten Hag spoke about it in his press conference. But I just think specifically, I thought the way the Manchester Evening News reacted to it was quite disappointing. And I'll go through some of that in a minute. But ultimately, Ten Hag is the manager of Manchester United. And last night and this morning, the Sky article was the one for me. If you're a manager of a football club and you hear Sky Sports, the national UK sports outlet, on the TV, saying that Ten Hag has lost 50% of the dressing room, and that they find him robotic, and they don't like running, and they don't like what he's done to Sancho, that's not like one newspaper. That's a national TV station saying that. And then it's backed up by the Mirror, which we know have always been quite close to Ten Hag or somebody in the club. Then you've got Manchester Evening News doing it this morning. I think the club have got every right to say, hold on a minute, you've not spoken to us about this. And then you think you're going to wander into the press conference and smile at Ten Hag and ask him about who's playing at centre-back. And the club have got the right to say no. The club say no to a lot of things. You know, we were on the receiving end of quite bad treatment after that Rashford thing, which was completely out of context. It comes with the territory. But I think the reaction from some people in the media is fear. I think they're scared that they might lose their meal ticket. Because what are they if they don't have that? I look at some of these news outlets and, you know, people accuse us as clickbait. We have a news show in the morning. It's about the news. What are these news outlets doing? I mean, I sometimes read stories like Man United are backing for Gaetan. And I look at it and it will be from some ridiculous source from a Twitter aggregator who isn't even a journalist. And that's mainstream media doing that. So, you know, I see it for what it is. They're not in a comfortable position. They're all competing against each other. They're a dying breed, and they're scared. And they need the club. They need the club more than journalists, than the club need those journalists, because the club don't need that anymore. This has changed. Manchester Evening News put a statement out tonight, which we can go through if you want to, but in that statement, they basically said, Manchester United is a Mancunian institution, and it's a privilege to have them on the doorstep and to cover them minutely, but we are not on the club's payroll. Our job is to report what's happening in the organisation that matter to our readers, and that includes our great football clubs. We do not publish anything lightly, and all our stories are sourced and checked. We have a responsibility to the readers who place such trust in us to faithfully report what we know and what we see. That's why Manchester United's decision to ban our chief Manchester United reporter supporter from attending a press conference is so concerning. When the Munich air disaster robbed the club and the city of some of its brightest stars, our reporter Tom Jackson was amongst the dead. From the highs of the treble to the rancor of the 2005 takeover, we've never stopped talking about United because Man United is part of the life of the city, and so are we. So we cannot ignore what we know is happening if it's in the interest of the supporters and it's in the interest of the club. Look, I've got no problem with that statement, but it comes across as a little bit whiny and self-entitled. Manchester United is Mancunian and the Manchester Evening News is based in Manchester, but it's not owned by Mancunian people. Let's call it out for what the Manchester Evening News is. Part of a wider media group that may or may not be owned by Rupert Murdoch. I don't know. I'm not really that interested. Let's take away, you know, talking about Munich's really powerful. Of course it is, but that's not the Manchester Evening News now. It's 2023. This is 2023. Social media exists, and your journalists wrote a story that pissed the fan base off. So you can talk about, you know, you want to get the story out for Manchester United fans. I don't think Manchester United fans want to read about dressing room unrest. And I think Manchester United fans, well, I think the bottom line is read the fucking room. Read the room. You know what you're doing. If look, I've had it, and I'm sure some other people in the industry have had it. Somebody comes to you and you go, oh, what a piece of story that is. Oh, yeah. But the problem is, for everything you put out there, there will be kickback. There'll be people who are moaning about me doing this now and they'll hate it and they'll be going, get that off. I get that. That's always going to happen. That's the world we live in. But when you put an article out saying the manager's lost half of the dressing room, they want Sancho back, this, that and the other, what do you expect when you say dressing room credible sources are telling us this? Doesn't work anymore. Doesn't work anymore. We've lived through how many gates have we walked through? I mean, and when I talk about that, you know, everything's a scandal, isn't it? Sources are identified these days. People don't want to put up with, oh, this dressing room source. They want to know who it is. We want to know who it is. And journalists will protect their sources. I accept that. And they're right. You know, their job is to be impartial. But this is what I'm talking about. It's a dying media. People don't want to be told half the dressing room's turned against Ten Hag. Who's half the dressing room? Oh, I'm not telling you that. It's a good source, though. Is it? You're a wanker. Oh, you can't call me a wanker. I can, because you've just put a massive load of pressure onto our manager and our club. You've just made the fans distrust the players. You've just completely and utterly sabotaged and poisoned our season with your article. And you're going to sit there and hide behind sources, impartiality, and professional integrity. Well, I think you're a wanker. You know. And welcome to the real world. They probably think I'm a wanker as well. Fine, I don't care. But it just comes across as a little bit whiny that they're now saying, oh, we've been banned and we're all about, you know, telling the people what's going on. Yes, absolutely fine. I applaud you on that. Well done. Good luck with it. But what you've forgotten is we now live in a world of accountability. And when you report something that people don't like, they may well kick back at you and say, you're a wanker. You've caused a load of problems there. I, personally, think that this is going to be really interesting to monitor now because the club have basically said, if you speak badly against us, you won't be in a press conference. Now, I don't know where I stand on that. I don't know where you stand on that. But that's why they're being moany, because they're suddenly realising that a lot of the content they want to write may lead to them not being in future press conferences. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't talk to the BBC for years, by the way. Like, this is nothing new. Hi, Mark. As you said in your last video, you know who the players are who do the leaks. Can't you say allegedly before each name and get away with it, says Madav. But I'm not the guy who's put that story out there. Well, you know, and I did read what Matic said about the club. I'm not the guy who put the story out about, all the guys who put the story out about the leaks from the dressing room. So, you know, it's not for me to say who it is. All I will say is that I know who it's not, and I can guess from about 10 players that it will be some of those players. But, I mean, as I said before, I can't imagine it's somebody like... I can't imagine it's any of the foreign players, for a start. And I also can't imagine it's Harry Maguire or Scott McTominay because they're getting game time. So, you know, that narrows it down a little bit. I mean, it could be completely wrong. It could be completely wrong. It could be Rafael Varane, who's the big boss at Man United. I very much doubt it, but you know, I think it's. I think people just need to wake up and smell the coffee on this. That Man United have probably reacted in a way that they can. They don't need to, they've shown a bit of oomph, actually. And I hope internally they can figure out who the actual leaks are and deal with them as well, because I think they do have to react to this in the right way, because if they don't, then they do look weak, and these things will continue to happen. Erik ten Hag was asked about it, as we know. He said, look, of course the players are with me. We've seen it in recent games that the players are with me. I'm sure there are problems in that dressing room. I really do. But look, it was interesting as well. Look, I'm not saying that there's not two sides to the story. I also read Samuel Luckhurst's article about this, which again came across as being, very upset. I would say he was very upset about it because, he's wrote an article about it. And some of the key points from that was that during a heated discussion with Man United players outside the team coach at the Southampton last year, a certain player said to him, "Do you support us?" And I informed him, journalism is an impartial industry. And for every negative article, I'd have written a positive article as well, which I haven't got a problem with. He said, look, we're accused of being negative. The irony is players, relatives, managers, fans and press officers home in on the negativity more. Well, we know that. He said that a United player's father contacted me over a story he was unhappy with. Had he seen this piece about his son trumpeting his development and community work? No, he hadn't. And around a month before Erik ten Hag stepped into the Old Trafford press conference room and pressed the flesh of journalists to engage with the British press for the first time, this correspondent lunched with a senior staff member. Well, couldn't give a shit about that. Again, it just comes across as egotistical. But it's quite an interesting article from Luckhurst, because it's almost like pontificating why he's so important to Manchester United. I've had lunch with him, I've flagged up these emails, but you've also written countless articles that are, undermining to the manager and Solskjaer and everybody else. And that's the point. If I know as more than anybody, if you do a video or something like that, you better be prepared for it to come back and bite you, or at least acknowledge it. That's just the way it works. He said that I flagged abusive emails that I continued to receive from the relative of a player, citing it as an example of the toxic culture within the squad. Well, look, he's not wrong about that. Look, he's not wrong about that. That, I've had it. I know people who've had it as well. The family members and friends of certain footballers at that football club can be quite abusive at, late at night. But that's just, I think that's par for the course. If you criticise a player, expect a little back. I think that's par for the course if you put yourself up as a journalist or a content creator. I haven't really got a massive problem with it. And you're dealing with human beings at the end of the day who are protective of their family members and friends and clients. But what I found really interesting, and this is the bit that I wanted to get to. So Samuel Luckhurst says, one of United's summer signings, so Højlund, Mount, Onana or Amrabat, is represented by the same PR company whose clientele includes disgruntled players past and present. United were unaware of this until yours truly made them aware of it. So, Luckhurst again, I think he thinks he's CEO of Man United. Anyway, they still proceeded with the deal. And I was just reading that and I was going, I did a bit of homework and I was like, I don't know that this is factual, but the only one I could figure out that it is Mason Mount. So Luckhurst is saying of the Manchester Evening News, head Manchester United reporter, that he told the club that they were buying a player who was signed up to a PR company that was also a PR company for past and present Man United players that weren't happy. And he told the club about it and they proceeded with the deal still. And I'm like, well, as if Ten Hag is going to go, oh, we've put a load of work into this player, let's not buy him now because Samuel Luckhurst says he's got a PR company that he works with that has other players. Look, I don't know whether this is true, but the only PR company I could find was the sports PR company that is tentatively linked to Mason Mount, but also has clients such as Rafael Varane, Cristiano Ronaldo, Wilfried Zaha, Fellaini, and its founder, I think it had something to do with the branding of David Beckham back in the day. I mean, I don't really get what that's all about. So if it is Mason Mount and he's working for a PR company that has clients like Varane, Ronaldo, Zaha, and formerly Beckham, I mean, what does that even mean? I don't know. But look, what I will say is it certainly put a cat amongst the pigeons, to be honest. So it's very, very interesting. But as the title says, Ten Hag strikes back. I think that he's got every right to do it. The end game here is every journalist has got a right to write an article about, and this is where I would say the Manchester Evening News have missed the point. I think they're trying to garner sympathy because of their reputational name. But as Noel Gallagher once said to the lead singer of INXS when he gave him an award, has-beens shouldn't be giving out awards to Gunnabys. And the Manchester Evening News come across as a little bit of, they're just trying to talk about their past. But they're not a Manchester-owned paper anymore. They're owned by a global conglomerate. And, at the end of the day, you can write any article you like. No one's stopping you from doing that. What the club are saying is, if you write an article like that and you don't contact us to see, what our thoughts are before it goes out, we might not let you into a press conference. What's wrong about that? I think it sent a strong message. I don't think they'll do it again. I think it's a warning shot. I don't think the club will be eager to do it again. But it's a warning shot to journalists in future to run it by the club, because the damage it caused ahead of big games of football. I mean, at the end of the day, let's say it for what it is. That interview by Sky Cafe on Sky last night, Luckhurst's article, Rob Dawson's article, which I didn't think was anywhere near as bad, by the way, and the Mirror article, if it had been received a different way, Ten Hag's lost his job. That's what all that... Yeah, I always think if you're writing a story, what should you... Not many people pick up a pen and just write. There's always a point to it, isn't there? And the point to all those stories was to undermine the manager and make his job unsafe. The manager's got every right to say, to be honest, if I was Ten Hag, I'd have said today, I don't want him, and him in the press conference. I want a message sending. I can imagine what's happened. Ten Hag has said to the club, I don't want them in my press conference. If you back me as manager, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to see their face. I don't want to see them today. I want a message to go out that their bullshit will not be put up with. And he's got every right to do that. And Sir Alex used to do it. Media know he's gone. They cashed in on reports as Zambian. And everything's a mess. Sacking Ten Hag won't change a thing. Qatar was our only way out, says Football Maniac TV. Well, apparently Sir Jim next week is going to be announced. That's coming up very, very soon. But journalists are a disgrace, a Seacrest. Look, I'm not a journalist. We're not journalists. We're just a community that convene every night and discuss, and every morning and discuss. We're just football fans at the end of the day. But I think that journalism needs to take a long, hard look at itself anyway, because I think it is too cosy. And if I was a journalist around football tonight, I'd be going, ooh, this is dangerous. If I say something, I'm going to get banned by the club. Well, you know what? Maybe don't be lazy. Maybe start doing what you went to college to do. Proper journalism. There are so many stories to be written about football. Football is not clean. There are so many stories to be written about football. Trust me, there are a lot of stories to be written about Manchester United. And to be fair to Samuel Luckhurst, he sort of hints at it as well, what certain players are getting up to. It's well known in the Manchester scene. So, look, there's plenty of stories they can do. And that's my concern here, is that I don't think that the media should be going head-to-head with the club and Ten Hag. The real issue here are the players. They're the problem. And if there's plenty of stories that could be written about them. So, look, let's see what tomorrow brings, because if we lose tomorrow, then they've got a story, haven't they? Do you think when Sir Jim comes in, he'll back Ten Hag or back these players, says Nicholas? What a fantastic question. Yeah, get your questions in. Honest answer is I don't know. I think if Sir Jim Radcliffe cares about the fans, and God, we need somebody to care about the fans, then he will do what the fans want to happen. I was listening to the call in today. I thought Terry was a great call, by the way, even though I didn't agree with him about Ollie. But there were some fantastic comments and calls on the call in, and some people were saying in the chat that Rashford needs to be sold. Well, whilst I don't agree with that, I do worry about Rashford and a few other players at the moment, because I think that they've lost the trust of the fan base. And how do you win that back? It's very, very difficult. So I think if you're Sir Jim Radcliffe, you've got to look at where your bread's buttered. And the football fans of this football club are the people that need to be looked after. We've seen with the Glazers over the last 10 years, they prioritise the players, they prioritise the CEO. Woodward was looked after too long. the players have been looked after for too long at the detriment of the football fans. The football fans have been treated like shit by the Glazers. We need an ownership that cares about the fans. I don't know whether Sir Jim's going to do that. He's working with/for the Glazers. So maybe Sir Jim comes in and goes, I like British things. I want more British players. Well, we know that the problem, whoever the problem is, they're British. And, you know, I thought another journalist that I quite respect, Henry Winter, today did an article talking about what a nice guy Ten Hag is and then singled out Martial as a problem. And I thought, I've seen Henry Winter do 2 or 3 tweets over the last 12 months, you know, literally PR tweets for Marcus Rashford. Like, what a great guy Marcus Rashford is. And then he's done a tweet today just naming Anthony Martial. And I thought, that's so disappointing from a journalist who is, you know, respected and knows full well I mean, if Anthony Martial is running Man United like the Martial Mafia, I'll be stunned. Imagine if that was the story. Anthony Martial has been the one doing it all along. He's got everybody underneath him and he's running that football club and he's the toxic element. I've never heard such bullshit in all my life. The reason Martial gets mentioned by everybody is because he's French. You know, he's not got a British passport. He's an easy target. He always has been an easy target. And he may well be a problem at United, but he's not the problem. And he's certainly not the only problem. So I think for when Sir Jim comes in, we need to clear out players. And Martial's one of those players that's got to go for different reasons for me than probably for you. But I think Martial's had his time at United and it's time to try somebody else. But I feel that I don't know whether Sir Jim Radcliffe will do what the fans want to do or whether he'll come in and go and you know, ego feed these toxic players. Like Mariah Carey once sang, all I want for Christmas is for United fans to unite and focus on the real issues at the club. Thanks, Elliot. And reporters are happy to write articles that destabilise the club and endanger people's lives and careers. Good when said journos have their livelihood threatened, says Danny. And Nicholas, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Glazers are loving this. Less talk about them, the better, says Christian. And shouldn't you be on That's Football, Goldbridge, says Rogue. Yeah, it doesn't kick off till 8:15. And as you know, you're my priority. But I will be over to watch Luton against Arsenal very, very soon. I've got some cracking topics to talk about. But look, I do just want to say as well, you know, it's a bit of a weird show tonight because we're talking about, it's a massive game tomorrow to talk about as well. And it's not lost on me that that we do spend a lot of time talking about speculation. And I've even heard people going, oh, Galbridge, you're a hypocrite talking about this. But I'm not a trained journalist that's been a tea maker or a coffee maker at a newspaper and worked my way up. That's not the career path I wanted to go down. I talk about football the same way you do. I played it, I watched it, I played computer games, I watched it. You know, I love football and everything I've learned from football has been from watching it and talking to people who love football. That's my education. I'm not a journalist. I haven't got a press pass and I never will. And I'm not bothered about that. So comparing the United stand to something like the Manchester Evening News or Sky or anything like that is completely and utterly wide of the mark. We're not comparable in any way, shape or form. We're just people who talk the same way as we did when we were at school and we would down the pub. Abel 2009 says Manchester Evening News post on Twitter is a disgrace, trying to play the victims and suggest United are in the wrong. Well, I think it was ill-conceived, really. I think it was ill-conceived, and I think they were better off just keeping their mouths shut and building on their relationships. But the undermining tactics of the players are clearly a double-edged sword, says Emily Derry, yet they continue to do it, thinking they could get away with it. This is true for the players and the journalists involved. Well, I feel like tomorrow's game against Chelsea is very similar to the Fulham one a few weeks ago. I feel like the manager has been attacked unfairly, and the fans are just, behind that. I think the players have to respond tomorrow and show us that they're behind the fans. It's at Old Trafford, which is good. The closer it gets, the more I think we might get a result tomorrow, because it needs to be a big up yours to everybody who's trying to destabilise this football club. And there's always it's always something that sticks in my head, is that even if you don't like something, that's for us to solve. When outsiders start taking a pop at something that's ours, you sort of step in front of it and go, look, he might be a problem, but he's our problem. And if you want to get at him, you've got to go through us first. And I feel that that's what the fans have done today. They've reacted to some really bitter, derailing media articles that have obviously come from players and said, we've had enough of this. We've had this for the last 10 years. Maybe Ten Hag's not the right guy, but we, the fans, will decide that. We won't be pushed down an avenue because you're telling us to, or because the players want us to. We'll make our own mind up, leave him alone. And I feel like that's, it's not the time for Ten Hag to go, and we won't be rushed into a decision by the media or by certain players within that football club. And it's backfired on them. It's backfired on them because I think now what it's done is galvanise this fan base to get behind the manager and the club to a certain extent and say they may be a problem, but they're not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is these leaks and players that are causing these leaks. And I would implore any United player that knows who these leaks are to put it out, because it's been going on for too long. Exactly the same thing happened in January when Ranić was here. The dressing room was divided and it was leaks everywhere. There'll be good players in that dressing room who know who are doing this, and they should be exposing them. I mean, if you're Rasmus Højlund, you're a 20-year-old lad in Manchester for the first time, living in a different country for the first time, and you're reading articles about people in the dressing room who think you're shit. Same for Anthony. It's not good. It's not good. And we need to get to the bottom of this. I personally think if this was at any other professional environment, whether it was a bank, your local pub, or anything like that, they'd reveal who it was and they'd demand an apology. But at United, they always get away with it. It's always dressing room sources, and it never comes out. You know why it never comes out? Because it's so damaging to their brand if it comes out. They're happy to gob off. They're happy to go out, but don't let any phones be here. Don't let anyone know that we're here. Don't let anyone tell. I'll tell you there's trouble, but don't. It never comes back to me, and it's like, yeah, it's not good enough. But it won't come out. It won't come out. Of course it won't. They'll keep protecting it, and it will keep happening. But who it is, I wouldn't give you the names if I did know, because I don't know. But I think you can narrow it down. Thanks everyone for watching. I better get over to That's Football, where we can continue the conversation. I'm going to be live there with you in a minute or so. I've just got to change the colours and everything. Don't forget, Boohoo Man. You can get an extra 10% off with the code Goldbridge. Get yourself some nice Christmas wear. And I'll speak to you in a couple of minutes for Arsenal against Luton, live on That's Football. See you in a mo.